Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. His political career has gone from the Board of Regents to Lieutenant Governor, now Mayor of the City of Reno. We are joined today by the Mayor and the City Manager. Paul Enos has the rundown.
Reno Mayor Bob Cashell and City Manager Charles McNeely will be here to discuss everything from retract to redevelopment on Nevada Newsmakers.
And joining Paul and I on the Power Pundit panel, Dick Gammick and Andy Barbano. Some polar opposites. All coming up next on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
If you think Wells Fargo is only checking accounts, you're not seeing the whole picture. Online brokerage, mutual funds, mortgages, and home equity accounts. So get more than free checking and start reaching your goals today. Now you get the picture. Wells Fargo, the next stage.
If you own a business and want to maximize your company's potential, join the Retail Association of Nevada. Our membership benefits include the Nevada Retail Network Self-Insured Group, providing workers' compensation coverage that can lower your rates. That savings can go directly to your bottom line. We are an effective pro-business organization that lobbies on behalf of our business members. The Retail Association of Nevada, protecting Nevada businesses for 35 years.
When you need a new employee, how can you be sure who you're really hiring? A background investigation by Employer Links will uncover criminal records, verify the applicant's education, check their credit history and Social Security verification. An investigation will research professional licenses and driver's licenses and let you know why they're unemployed. Hiring the right person shouldn't be a gamble. Call Employer Links. Employer Links, protecting your investment.
It's the next best thing to having your own wine cellar. Come to the Bonanza Casino for a first and fine dining, reasonably priced wines. When you dine at Cactus Creek Southwestern Steakhouse, you can also enjoy a fine bottle of wine at just about the same price you'd pay at the Vineyard, Silver Oak, Robert Mondavi, Rombauer, Cape Red, Jordan, and Duckhorn, just to name a few. And at the lowest prices of any restaurant or casino in Northern Nevada. And remember, all fine wines are not in wine cellars. They're in the Cactus Creek at the Bonanza Casino, where locals come to play.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
And we welcome to the program one of my favorite people, Reno Mayor Bob Cashell. And I can't believe we've got him, but we've also got City Manager Charles McNeely, 9 years on the job, and a veteran. Welcome to both of you. Okay, let's start out with the questions here. Mayor, Roger Elton, a developer, bought the Turf Club license that was made available because of the downtown train trench work, and he wanted to put it in a casino opposite the convention center. Planning Commission turned him down. Do you agree with that decision?
Well, I'm not sure the reasons they turned down. If they got it, it was just a zoning request. And if they had to change the zone, he still had to come back and get a special use permit. And Sam, because of my relationship with Roger, I want to make it very clear, Bob Cashell will recuse himself from any decision making on this policy. My son has done business with Roger, still does business with him, and so at an arm's length deal that I found out they were still.
Let me broaden the question.
You go ahead.
Let's talk about the portability of these non-restricted gaming licenses. There were several, for example, in the city of Sparks that downtown Sparks is very concerned about.
Right.
Are we going to see the counties and the two cities coming together to come up with some kind of regulation or restriction of where these licenses?
I think you will see. You know, the city of Reno has two: the old Reno Club and the Turf Club, and those two licenses that were condemned have the right to relocate without building the hotel rooms into a master planned area and into a zoned area. And it doesn't mean they can't get a zone change or a special use permit, but they have to. After that, I don't think you'll see the city of Reno doing any more condemning and letting it float around. We've all learned from this.
A few months ago, the city of Reno, along with Washoe County, and I believe city of Sparks has also done it, they put a moratorium on any new casinos to prevent the neighborhood casinos. Can you go into the background on that?
Well, what we really plan to do is we need to slow this down. I mean, you have people that invested in this city many, many years ago, hundreds of millions of dollars. So you don't want a bunch of neighborhood casinos and different things like that. You don't want a lot of slot routes. You don't want a lot more grocery stores. You don't want a lot more bars. And we have, with the city of Sparks and the city of Reno, has come up with a moratorium for the time being. And we're hoping to get a definition. We're also trying to find out, can you move a license from the city of Reno to the city of Sparks? And right now, luckily, the city of Reno has a master plan and a zoning law. So we will adhere to those and we will work with it.
Now, there's a property down in the south where they built a casino. Well, not a casino. I guess it's not classified as a neighborhood casino. It's a restaurant on one side, and then on the other side there's a bar. But they each have 15 slot machines to kind of get around the city moratorium.
Right.
Yes.
And that's another one that we want to address. And we are going to address it. In fact, it's real funny because I've met the owners of Golden Casino and stuff, and they said, y'all need to tighten this rule up. And they've been helping us with it. And so we're coming up, maybe you can have a bar with a slot machine, but maybe you can't have another one for 5,000 feet away from it, or from schools and different things. That's something we need to tighten up, and everybody wants to do it.
Okay, let me throw out another topic here. We've got the RTC in the Reno Gazette-Journal over the weekend begging for direction on roads and planning for the 30-year plan, because they're trying to put in, and we've talked about this in the past on this program, this Tahoe Pyramid Link. Nobody wants it in their backyard. But the RTC is saying, you know, it's not just this road. We're going to have to build lots of roads, and there are going to be lots of problems. What's your take on this? I mean, do you see any slowdown in growth? Wouldn't that be just deadly for this area?
Well, as you know, I mean, we've been struggling with this for years. As you point out, I've been here close to 9 years, and this is not the first time since I've been here that Tahoe Pyramid Link has come up. I think this is something that we've got to deal with on a regional basis. I mean, that's the purpose of the RTC to begin with. So you have Reno at the table, and you have Sparks in the county. And each of the alternatives we've looked at raises major opposition from the community. I don't know what the solution is. The RTC has directed their staff to go back and to look at the options and bring those back. There was a public hearing held, less than 30 days ago. So that's coming back to RTC for another public hearing. They want to look at the alternative routes and see just what makes the most sense. But this is not an easy fix, Sam, as you know. I mean, but we are growing, and we need more routes in the community for people to get from one point to the other.
But you're not looking at any slowdown in the growth that we're experiencing, are you?
No, people right now, love. I mean, we were the best kept secret for years, but it's the word's out.
Yes,
the secret's out. And if you think back about the road back when they cut through Lake Ridge,
right?
Same thing. Somebody's got to bite the bullet, and we've got to study it and see and try to do the least amount of harm to anybody.
You know you raised a great point. There's a ring road around Reno for folks looking at this in other parts of the state that was finally completed, about 15 years ago, something like that. And the final portion of it went through a very expensive neighborhood. And those neighbors did not want that road coming through.
That's right.
Do you recall at the time, how was it pushed through in the end?
Well, they finally end up biting the bullet. The council and the commissioners did. But I'll tell you, there's still some ugly wounds out there when people bring it up and talk about it. But it was real funny because during my campaign, when I ran for office, we were repairing that section of McCarran Boulevard. And everybody was complaining, oh, Jesus, it's slowing down traffic, it's this and that. And yet, I jokingly said, well, we'll just close it off, and then we could show them what it would have really been like if you hadn't had it.
If those elected officials back then had not done what they did, this place would be impossible to live in.
Absolutely.
Let's take a break. We'll come back with more with the mayor and the city manager of Reno right after this.
Nevada Newsmakers, brought to you in part by Sunbelt Communication.
a hole in your roof or a whole new roof, Ken Dillon, owner of Van Dyne Roofing, can get it fixed with his eyes closed.
Something spectacular has taken wing not far from Reno or Lake Tahoe, and never far from your mind. An escape of fine dining and legendary golf. Introducing the resort at Red Hawk. And at the center of it all, we've feathered our nest with new villas that have elevated Red Hawk to the status of a premier resort. The Resort at Red Hawk, a beautiful new arrival in northern Nevada.
It's America's largest historical district, and it's fun for the entire family. Virginia City is where the West comes alive every day, from train rides to gunslingers. Your gang can explore mines and interesting museums, visit historic saloons, and do some great shopping. Virginia City is the ultimate in family entertainment, and it's very affordable. Come up and stay overnight in our hotels, motels, and RV park. Virginia City, the Wild West at its best.
So, who do you use for workers' comp?
Pro Group Management.
Ah, I've heard some good things about them.
Oh, you bet. Employee background checks, safety training, claim seminars. Oh, and here's the great part. If you have an issue, they work for you, not against you.
Sounds perfect. And expensive.
Well, that's the best part. They saved me 30%. I've heard they've saved others 50%.
Works for me. Pro Group Management. Finally, workers' comp that works for you.
You are watching Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers with Reno Mayor Bob Cashell and City Manager Charles McNeely.
Mr. McNeely, there's been a big push from people in the community for you to hire Andra Berry as the new Reno Chief of Police. You said that you're not going to let people from the community influence your decision on who you hire. What factors come into place when you're hiring a new chief of police?
Well, you know, first of all, I mean, it's a good thing, I think, that people in the community look upon Andra Berry and like the service that he's provided. I think that's always something that's important in the community. You want to know that incoming chief is well supported in the community. That's just one factor, though. I mean, you really have to also look at the person's experience, their background in law enforcement, their ability to deal with the issues in any particular community that you're dealing with, whether that's drugs or you know, other kinds of gangs, whatever. I mean, always there are any number of factors that go in, and it's very important to me to make sure that we are getting a good composite of the skills and characteristics of the kind of person that we want to serve this community over the long haul. So it's nice to have that community support, and that's something I welcome. But in the end, as I said, that's just one piece of it, and you have to look at the total profile. And once all that's said and done, we've done the reference and the background checks. Then my job is to come forward and make a recommendation to the council, and then they have to confirm it one way or the other. And if they don't confirm it, then I have to go back out and bring them somebody else.
When do you think the final decision will be made?
Well, you know, I expect, I mean, this has been a process that we've been very careful about, very deliberate. We want to make sure that we don't leave any stone unturned, and we know as much about the candidates as we possibly can. We have 3 finalists at this point in time. I would anticipate that sometime toward the latter part of January, we'll bring a recommendation. I'll bring a recommendation to the council, and then, as I said, they'll have at it.
Let's talk about property taxes. You know, there's talk about freezing property taxes on a statewide level. There's talk about capping property taxes. What's your thoughts on that and its effects?
Well, you know, I don't disagree that we've got to look at the property tax because it has been going wild here. And so we've got to come up with a formula to do it, and we can live with whatever they come up with. And we will go down to the legislature and help with it or whatever we got to do. But it's something that has to be looked at. You know, we need to even come up with something maybe where senior citizens only pay when you're 60 years old, you pay 70%, and then when you're 65, you pay 50%. And a formula so that when they get to be 70, they don't pay the tax anymore.
Although that'd take a constitutional amendment, so it would be 4 years,
down the road.
We had a solution.
But they need to cap something.
Don't go there. Don't go there. I just want to throw that out.
I thought this was going to be a fun meeting. They say I'm not.
What would be the problems that you might see with capping property taxes? Do you see them with the schools, for example?
Well, I mean, obviously, capping property taxes clearly, from a residential standpoint, would help with those folks who can least afford it. in terms of their property tax going up, given the growth that we've seen. From a city standpoint, obviously, when you start doing that, our budget continues to grow, the needs of the community continue to grow. We have to find a way of financing that. And property tax is one of those pieces that we rely on year in and year out to be able to add more police officers, or add more firefighters, or recreation programs. So that's just one element that we look at. And so long term, when those are capped, then you've got to find some other way. That revenue that would normally be produced by capped property tax, you've got to find some other revenue source to augment that. That's the challenge that we have. And it's not just Reno, it's statewide. And obviously education is a key component in this community, so you don't want to impact education.
So you don't agree with the Las Vegas Review-Journal editorial board that says, let's figure out how much we actually need and if necessary raise property taxes to that level, as against just basing it on the value?
I think that's a little too simplistic. I think you've got to, where we really started getting in trouble was years ago, when we depended to live on a flexible tax, the sales tax. And we got ourselves in a jackpot, and now we're trying to work it out. And to have a good government, you got to have a stable tax program, or your bond ratings are going to go to hell and everything else. But you've got to be able to come up with something. And I don't want to see people get hurt with the property tax, but that's the way you run government, and that's the way you run the school systems. And I'm afraid the school system might get hurt the worst.
And I really think that we have to be careful again, because my fear is that we'll have a knee-jerk reaction to try to impose some measure that may work, in the short term, 1 or 2 years, but it doesn't solve the long-term problem. And this is something this state has dealt with for a long time. And I would just hope that the state legislature would involve the cities and the other entities that are affected and try to really come up with something that's long-term. That's not, everybody's going to have to suffer in some way and compromise on this issue, but I hope all the parties are sitting at the table and that we're very deliberate in finding a long-term solution that's good for the whole state.
Getting back to taxes, you guys have been fairly diligent about trying to bring private enterprise back downtown. Can you give us a little bit of an update on what you're doing on the former MAPE site and some of the other areas downtown?
Well, I'll let the mayor comment on the MAPE site, because I know that's real important to him. But overall, we have been extremely successful. I've been here, as I said, for a while, and you look at the struggles that we had in the mid-90s with trying to attract businesses downtown. And it was difficult. We had a lot of property, as you well know, that was boarded up, that was blighted. It was a difficult struggle to get private sector to come in. The city stepped in and acquired a lot of those properties with the full intent not of keeping it, because that's not what we do, but the objective being to acquire those properties, to demolish them where necessary, and then bring the private sector back in, where we put them back on the tax roll. Most of that property that we've acquired is now either back on the private tax roll, or we're in the process of putting it back there. We've got the Palladio, as you well know, which is a 12-story complex that's going to be going up here real soon. Got a groundbreaking coming up on that. It's 12 units. We are very excited about that prospect. You've got the MAPES site. We have the corner parcel on the theater site that will be also under construction the first part of the year. We've got the event center that's opening in this month, and of course the retrack project. All of those things that are going on right now, and the good side of it is a lot of construction going on downtown. The bad side is that we've got minor interruptions. You all know it's difficult at times, but that's going to end over the course of the next year, and you will see a brand new downtown.
And he wasn't going to say anything. Do you remember that? Yeah. You get the last word on the MAPES.
Oh, the MAPES, the council, we've had they had meetings before I got there. We've had meetings since then. We've tried to get the public input, and some people like it and some people don't, what we're planning. So we're moving ahead. We've now picked a developer to build the retail section of it. That'll have restaurants in it. I also have the equipment for the ice skating rink.
When do you think it'll be done by?
Well, the ice skating rink will be open by next Thanksgiving. It will be, or Charles and I'll be out there holding the cube so people can get.
And that's the last.
We'll both be in skates.
That's right.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. Come back anytime. We'll be right back on Nevada Newsmakers after this.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
When you need a new employee, how can you be sure who you're really hiring? A background investigation by Employer Links will uncover criminal records, verify the applicant's education, check their credit history and Social Security verification. An investigation will research professional licenses and driver's licenses and let you know why they're unemployed. Hiring the right person shouldn't be a gamble. Call Employer Links. Employer Links, protecting your investment.
Are you ready to experience Reno's ultimate lobster buffet? Then bring your appetite to the El Dorado, where we're serving a half pound of slipper lobster tail for just $5 with the purchase of a dinner buffet. Catch it every night of the week. Are you in?
You are watching Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, Paul and I are joined by Dick Gammick, Washoe County District Attorney, and Andy Barbano, editor of NevadaLabor.com. Paul, yesterday on Meet the Press, the president was taken to task most strongly by Joe Biden. This morning, there's a press conference. What came out of that press conference with the president?
Well, today he reaffirmed his support for Donald Rumsfeld. I don't know if you've heard in the past couple days, there have been criticism on Donald Rumsfeld not only for the Humvees not having armor, but for not personally signing the letters of condolences to the family members who have lost a son or daughter in Iraq. So the president reaffirmed his support for him. He also laid out an agenda rather vaguely. He said he wasn't going to start negotiating with himself on Social Security reform and also on immigration reform.
Okay, so at this point, okay, Mr. Gammick, jump in.
Well, you reminded me of something when you started talking about that, and I just amazed last week. Did you see the news where the military people were court-martialed because they dared dig up these old scrap vehicles and were using them? And I mean, I'm sitting there going, what? They weren't boxing them up and sending them home to have private cars. They were digging them out of scrap heaps so they could protect themselves because they were short on the armor, and they got court-martialed for it, 6 months hard time, and dishonorable discharge from the military. What is going on?
Well, Joe Biden's point over and over again was that, changing Rumsfeld is not the solution. The problem lays in the White House. The White House has known about this. There have been many, many Senate hearings. I think it was something like 23 over the past several months where they've known about these shortages, and the White House has done nothing about it.
War historian Gwynne Dyer did an 8-part series about 10 years ago on war. It was so controversial that the right wing insisted on getting their own hour out of the public broadcasting system to rebut, and this is back in the late 1980s, and what they did instead was to hire Edwin Newman to do an hour lecture on the benefits of the Star Wars missile defense system. They didn't bother to rebut. The bottom line of Gwynne Dyer's entire series on war, he defined the purpose of a soldier. And he said the purpose of a soldier is not to fight, the purpose of a soldier is to die. And I thank Mr. Rumsfeld for at least being forthcoming and upfront with the American people that that's what the soldiers are there to do.
Well, I have to disagree with that, Andy. I don't think anybody wants soldiers to go there and die. I don't think that's the objective. I don't think that's how Donald Rumsfeld views soldiers. Is it absolutely horrible that what Dick said, that you're court-martialing people for digging scrap armor to put it on a Humvee? It is. It's absolutely disgusting that you would do that.
Amen.
Well, and especially as the fact that they could have ramped up the production lines a long time ago, but in the way of saving money, they decided not to do that.
They don't support the troops at all, except with lip service. They don't even send them a personally signed letter when they die.
I still recall George C. Scott, though, playing Patton, saying the secret is not to die for your country. The secret is to arrange it so some other poor dumb dies for his country.
That's not happening,
right.
though.
Well,
it's really interesting if you kind of look back at history. After World War I, there was a huge isolationist fervor in this country where you had the people who were against World War I blaming it on Jewish munition manufacturers and bankers, saying that's the only reason we had this war. You had Charles Gates Dawes, who was the general of procurement during the war, who got up and testified in front of Congress and started yelling and screaming at the congressmen and said, I would have paid horse prices for sheep if I could have gotten sheep to pull artillery to the front. And I think you need that when you have soldiers in there putting their lives in danger. You need that kind of mentality, somebody who's willing to pay horse prices for sheep if sheep will do the job.
I think anyone who volunteers to serve in the U.S. military today is crazy, and you should not do it. You're committing suicide. If you want to commit suicide, do it.
Whoa, 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 whoa. This country, freedom isn't free. Freedom was won because more than 1 million Americans have given their lives over the years to fight for this country. We are in a position now where even both sides of this last presidential debate agreed that we needed to be there to stop terrorism and do what we needed to do.
Not in Iraq.
And the only way it's going to be done is with people volunteering, coming forward, and fighting for our country. That statement, I'd bandy your way out there.
No, this war had nothing to do with the war on terrorism. It does now because we're spawning terrorists.
Saddam Hussein was a terrorist. He was funding terrorists who were blowing up people in Israel. He is a terrorist. I don't think you can look at Saddam Hussein and say he was anything but a terrorist.
He was a despot in his own country, but his influence beyond the Iran-Iraq situation was severely limited.
Baloney. This guy is paying $25,000 to the families of suicide bombers to go and blow up people in Israel. If that isn't terrorism, I don't know what terrorism is.
The solution was not invading Iraq to fight al-Qaeda. The whole point was al-Qaeda and...
Is al-Qaeda the only terrorist organization out there? Is al-Qaeda, do they have the monopoly on terrorism?
Absolutely not.
No, that means we should also be planning to invade Egypt and Syria and Iran and Saudi. Why didn't we invade Saudi Arabia, Paul?
I'm not going to argue.
That's the spawn of terrorism right there.
Actually, Iran, if you want to look at where a lot of the terrorists come out of, and probably the biggest sponsor of state terrorism, it's Iran at this point in time.
Japan spawned the Red Brigades. North Korea not only supports terrorism, but exports nuclear technology.
And you know what?
Why don't we invade them?
I'm not going to disagree with you on any of those. I would love for the people in Iran, the regimes in Iran and in North Korea, and all the people who all the states that sponsor terrorism to be gone. But that's not a reality right now.
We sponsor terrorism. We always have. We've sponsored terrorism since 1953.
That is such a load of
We have sponsored terrorism since we overthrew the democratically elected government of Iran in 1953, followed by Guatemala, knocked off the democratically elected government of Chile and installed Pinochet in 1973. We have a 50-year history of sponsoring terrorism.
Regardless of all that, our people are at risk in Iraq, and we need to support them as a country, and we need to make sure we finish up with what we're doing. And these people need our support, and to court-martial American soldiers for going out and getting things and using initiative is wrong.
You're right.
Okay, and we are out of time.
Correct.
A very interesting debate. We'll be right back on Nevada Newsmakers after this.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
Something spectacular has taken wing not far from Reno or Lake Tahoe, and never far from your mind. An escape of fine dining and legendary golf. Introducing the resort at Red Hawk. And at the center of it all, we've feathered our nest with new villas that have elevated Red Hawk to the status of a premier resort. The resort at Red Hawk, a beautiful new arrival in northern Nevada.
I tell you, John, this industry has really changed.
Tell me about it.
You seemed to do pretty well last year. What's your secret?
No secrets. Although I'll tell you something. The smartest thing I did was sign up with Pro Group Management.
Really? Yeah, they do workers' comp, right?
Yeah, their services are great. And get this, they saved me 30%. I've heard they saved others 50%.
That works for me.
Pro Group Management. Finally, workers' comp that works for you.
Coming up tomorrow, Bob Beers. See ya.